Yeah, so my whole journey started here. I sat there and Swamiji suggested, to go to India. So I ended up in Nagpur and then Rishikesh and
What,
then Coimbatore.
what year was this?
2004.
Okay.
Yeah, January 1st, 2004, I flew from here. Knew nothing about India. I was like an American guy, Knew nothing about the culture, and when I ended up in Rishikesh, I felt I was in in an alien world, with the ashramites and the swamis and all that. But yeah, so I learned how to adapt and learned the culture, and then studied there for 3 years, then came back here. So I spent a lot of time with Pujya Swamiji here.
Swamiji, what got you in this place for the first time?
Oh, I was telling you guys that I was agnostic before,
Hmm.
and in fact anti-Hindu, anti-religion and all that. But my Jyotish teacher, he he decided to hold a class here, and when he decided to have a class here is when I ended up coming to study Jyotish, and I didn't know what Vedanta was and all that. And Swami Pratyabodhanandaji got hold of me and took my CV and my bio and all that and gave it to Pujya Swamiji in India. And then Swamiji sent me an email.
Wow.
And I was curious, and so I came back and met him in September of 2003. And I was going through his transition myself, and so then he made perfect sense. So that's why I'm standing here today this way.
That's great.
Yeah. So these are some of his things he used. You'll watch a lot of people find it very amusing, his t-shirt. He used to call himself a holy hobo. Yeah. So sometimes I call myself that too. But these are all of his personal things that he used. And he, spent most of his time here. I mean, our first classes started in this room. He would sit there, and all the students would sit here. And the first 3-year course that was done in the mid '80s was done here. Because the students were all building the facilities. There was nothing else. There's some old buildings.
The Dakshinamurti Mandir, when was that enacted?
That sometime around that time also.
Okay.
Because they built the temple around mid '80s, and then they built a hall. And you see the door that was also designed. So all of it came together. But they bought this place, I think, around 85, 86. And then the course began immediately.
And the lecture hall we see in the mandir wasn't absent that time. It was just here.
Here. All the classes were here in this hall. So Swamiji would sit here on one of his not so luxurious chairs, but he would be on simple chairs at that time. And all the students would gather here. And there were a lot of them. There were about 40, 50 students, I think, would gather here. And so the 3-year course was done here.
Wow, then 87, 90 was all this room.
80 in the mid 80s.
Amazing.
Yeah, then once the hall was built, then everything shifted there.
So would that be the content of the Gita home study?
So the Gita home study, which I was saying, was, the first 3-year course was his lectures. But then, since the mid 80s till 2005, I think, till the last, you see the edited version of the books. So there have been over 25 Swamis working on it. They've been editing it and revising it. So there have been so many revisions. But the final version that you see, Swamiji himself read every word.
Okay.
And he cleaned out some words that are confusing. Because in teaching in English, you don't convey the true meaning of the Sanskrit words. So then he was able to delete and replace any of the confusing concepts and words used in the previous documents.
Okay.
So this is the most authentic one. And he worked on it. He read every word of it again in the mid-20s, like just before he passed away. And what I also say about this Gita home study, it has so much in it. It just doesn't have the Gita verses or explanation of the Gita verses. He talks about dharma, he talks about It's full of Vedanta teaching in layman's terms, number one. Number two, it also includes Sanskrit, structure and grammar of how structure is set up. It also brings in the Hindu culture. It also brings in Hinduism for Hindus in America. So there's a lot of that there. How do we adapt and adjust? So you'll see so many references, so many stories related to that. So it's a full, comprehensive document that explains almost everything. So I find it incredible. Yeah. Anything that we want to know about dharma, about religion, about lifestyle, all of that is included in there. Yeah. Including, I think it makes some references of Jyotisha.
Right. This is really magnum opus. It's
it is, yeah.
Book
in
of
fact,
all books.
What people don't realize that all Western philosophers, there's a guy called Rene somebody.
Descartes?
No, Rene, he's a Dutch guy. In just 20, 30 years ago, he did a research and he found that every philosopher in the past 2 centuries, 3 centuries, they all studied Bhagavad Gita.
Wow.
They didn't study it the way we study it, but whatever they did, it really inspired them to think in a certain way. So you look at every major philosopher from the 1700s, they all studied Bhagavad Gita at some point. So that defined their philosophy, the vein that they went in. Yeah. So yeah. So my journey, basically a couple of things, is that he would teach here, but then he would privately counsel here. So since you're recording, I'll take you in.
Yes.
Because normally there's more. So have you seen any of these books? But these are his private collection.
Yes.
On his books, and this is just a small collection. Some of his collection is in the library here. Some of it, Swamiji said, it disappeared. Yeah, but this room has a lot of sentiment for me because I got my first mantra diksha here. My name change here, so and my journey, all decisions were made here. So.
And the listeners of this video are aware of the story because they watched the first interview as well.
They watched the first. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, and so even on that note,
I had no hair at that time because when you did that interview, and now I'm full of hair.
Right.
Except bald.
And same here. Pujya Swamiji has personally counseled me on several occasions here. I was down in the dumps in 2012. I had no direction in life. I didn't know what I was going to do. Nothing, and he set everything right, and so this room is very special to me.
Yeah, to a lot of people. But it's very odd that today I'm a Swami, but it all started in this room. Because before that I was just a normal, hardworking, materialistic, focused guy. So and now to be here as a Swami, that's such a transformative.
And we were speaking that you were one of, I think, the top key opinion leaders in the BI space or something. So very accomplished as well. And now you're in a completely different vastram.
Yeah, completely different. Yeah, I'd done quite a few other things, but and now I say I'm homeless, childless, jobless, penniless. And I'm still very happy and content. So this is, Swamiji's blessings, and also also the proof or the validation of the teaching.
Yes.
Because it's just the teaching that enabled me to actually get to this point. Yeah. So I'll take you to the rest of the place. He also spent a lot of time in the kitchen here. He would mostly sit here, and of course, all the dining, everything was provided, and sometimes invited guests would join in. Most of the time, he spent hours in this place. Sometimes he would spend 12 hours in that little room. Then I'll take you to his bedroom. So I'm giving you guys a private tour.
Yeah.
It's normally not accessible. We installed this when he had problems with his legs because of diabetes, and he had high blood pressure. So this is his private quarters. And of course he had a lot more books here, but this is where he would retire and sometimes do private reading, because if he went down, he would be sequestered and bothered, and so he did a lot of private journaling here, or responding to letters, things like that, making some decisions. And this is where he slept. Sometimes he would sit here. There are many times I spent some time here helping him out, especially at his old age. And one of the other memorable thing for me is that he taught me how to watch Indian cricket. I never knew anything about that sport, but sometimes he would be up at 3, 4 a.m. in the morning watching cricket, because in India that's when matches are going on, and he was a great fan of Tendulkar and all that.
Yeah.
I even started knowing those names, because of him. So we could accompany him sometimes here and watch.
And Pujya Swamiji was a very vivacious, lively person, and there's a wrong notion in the world of spirituality that one has to be very severe and lackluster in life. Would you like to share some thing on Pujya Swamiji's love for life?
Yeah, and that was the thing that defined me, frankly, because he lived a full life, and gaining this vision that means you're whole, right? You are everything. So you are a human being. You're not a robot. And as a human being, you do enjoy a good meal. You do enjoy a laughter. He was hilarious, and so he would make us laugh all the time. But that's the beauty of it. When you really gain this vision, one of the things you see is that life is joyous, and that everything is complete when you have that vision of wholeness and purnatvam, the completeness. With that completeness, then there's no lacking. Then you have that innate joy, which actually is not bliss, but what we call ananda. So when we say anandam, we are talking about limitlessness, and because there's no limitation, you are full, complete, right? So you have to live it that way. You have to, because it's obvious. We have problems because we don't see the wholeness, we don't see the fullness. That's why we have problems. And by Vedanta, we get to see it, and it's very clear, it's very evident. And when you see it, then you live your life that way. So that means laugh, be happy, love. Love is very much part of this teaching. So you have to love, and in order to love, you have to be happy. So they go hand in hand. And he was a complete, a perfect example of that. It's because of him I said, oh wow, this totally makes sense. He was funny as hell. He loved music. He loved traveling. He loved engaging with people. He even loved food. He was very, very. He had really refined taste in everything. So, and I watched him appreciate the good things in life. So
he lived so fully, and that's a marvelous thing to see.
Yeah. And when you appreciate everything, then you're not seeking all those things. You enjoy what you get. And that's the evidence of his teaching, really. So to watch him live that was an incredible education for me. Because after studying in India, when I came here and I watched his life, I was like, wow, this person is living a life in the 21st century based on something that was written 100,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago. I said, how could that be possible? But to watch him live it really made a huge difference for me.
Yeah, he's showing it can be done and how it can be done.
Yeah. And that's one of the greatest thing about this teaching. It's one thing to read in the books. It's another thing to actually watch your guru live the teaching. Then you can say, because he's live, in this century, in this period, because we are saying, oh, well, it's Kali Yuga and this is all in the books, it's all abstract. But then if you see somebody living it today, that really shifted me. That really made a change. And it was such a profound teaching. And I strive to do that. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Swamiji.
You're welcome.